Ooh, it's cold today, but beautiful. That's the thing about our allotment site here in Laxey, is that it's always beautiful. You look out over the field and you see the landscape, you can see the sea from different parts of it. But we have a problem here at our allotment, and I'm pretty sure that it's a problem in most allotments across Britain, maybe even community gardens elsewhere. Our problem is plastic. So our association had our AGM, so our annual general meeting last week, and one of the items on the agenda to talk about was plastic in the field. Now, at our committee meeting before the AGM, we actually brought up the idea of maybe we should just ban plastic altogether. And it is impractical. There's a lot of things made out of plastic that we need here. So we need the black plastic sheeting to suppress weeds. People have plastic compost bins, etc. So it's probably going to be moderating the use of plastic and trying to avoid certain types. Now, the reason that plastic is a problem is that, first of all, in our allotment, we're on a slope, and on one side there is a pasture where cows graze, and at the bottom, on the other side of the fence, there's also another area where cows can go in as well, and that's been our main worry. This week, I've seen a documentary that made me even more concerned, and it's called A Plastic Ocean. And what it made me aware of is that the plastic, although it's recycled, that we're using here in the allotment, so plastic bottles to hold up netting, other plastic bits that have been recycled and brought here for a good purpose, trying to reuse it. The winter storms will whip it off of plots if it's left out. It goes down into the glen, and there's a little river along there, and that plastic has a high likelihood of ending up in the Irish Sea. And as I learned in the documentary, the Irish Sea is just part of one large ocean. There's all these currents that move plastic around, and it never, ever breaks down. It breaks up, but it doesn't break down. Now, we have a cleanup day planned for May, but I've decided that I'm going to actually walk around today and see what I can collect and take it back with me, and basically get rid of it, recycle it, or put it in the bin. And also I want to have a look at some of the items and see if there's any better options available for finding tools and uses in the garden. So what other things can we be using? So I'm going to get my bag ready, and we're going to go and have a look around our site. You see, this is one of the problems with plastic plant pots, is that they break up like this. Really cheap, and left here, little bits of that will get into the soil. So here we've got a few things. Clothing pin. This is landscaping fabric that's really torn up. That is a plastic barcode for some product for a bamboo planter. This is plastic. This won't break down. The irony has not escaped me that I'm using a plastic bag to clean up plastic rubbish. This stuff is probably the worst netting. Now, I have some of the same stuff over my pond right now, but it's used all throughout our allotment, and I'm sure lots of others as well, because it's inexpensive. But it doesn't last. This is cheap, horrible netting, and my actual main netting that I use is much more durable. But it is so tempting to get this because it'll be like a quid, so £1 to buy lots of netting. But this is what happens to it. It gets whipped up by the storms and wind, or forgotten on plots that have been turned back in. And this is a hazard to wildlife and also to the environment. This is how that netting breaks down. Look at that, just little piece of it left. It's that same green netting. Say no to this green netting. I think after my own knitting of the pond is finished, I'm going to be disposing of that before it causes any problems. Gosh, even more of this stuff. What's this? Carpet tile. But gosh, look at this. I've just lifted up this little bit of carpet and there's plastic rubbish in there amongst those bugs and sprouts trying to come up. Look at that. You know, they talk about microplastic in the seas. This stuff is becoming microplastic in our soil. So I'm home now, I've had a chance to warm up, I've had something to eat, and I've also been sorting through all of the rubbish that I've collected at the allotment site. And it's all back behind me, and it's literally been out here just a couple minutes, and the wind is already moving it around, and it's all over the place, which is a good indication of what's happening at the allotment site as well. So there are 4 main types of rubbish that I've found. First of all, it's the netting, the really cheap green plastic netting. And I found it everywhere on the site, and it's something to really think about. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. I've got some of it going across my little pond at this very moment. So the longevity of it is not great. So looking for an alternative is going to be something that's going to be on my to-do list. The next thing are drinks bottles, plastic drinks bottles. There's lots of them too. And a lot of us will use them to hold up netting or for other purposes, making little cloches for our plants. But it's a problem if they're left out over the winter, or say if you give up a plot, you leave them on the plot itself. So that's a huge issue. plastic bags. So lots of thin plastic bags that are being left up there. So whether they're carrier bags or they are compost bags from the garden center, they're up there. The sunlight and the wind and the elements are taking their toll and they're shredding. There's little bits of them all over the place. It's crazy, and it makes it impossible to pick up every single little piece. Now, the other thing that's a big problem are plastic plant pots and trays, and there are loads up there. And as anyone who has used them, repeatedly after getting them from the garden center, you know that they don't last very long. They start breaking down, they crack, and that's at the best of times. In the worst of times, out in the elements, they are breaking down, and there's little bits of them, where they're left and discarded. And I don't think that people are doing this deliberately. No one litters deliberately. It's just forgetting to take things home, or thinking that they're weighed down, or just forgetting about it. So working on reducing the amount of plastic that we bring to our allotment sites is going to be a biggie. And then looking for alternatives for things like the netting. So I actually have some more heavy duty netting that I use for my brassicas and my berries and such. And I think I'll just start using that for everything from now on. We also have a cleanup day scheduled for the allotment site, so we all know that this is a problem. We're all at fault, and we're all going to work together to help clean up our site. So that will be in May. We're going to do a little bit of a social. It should be a fun day, and hopefully we've got some good weather for that. And hopefully we'll be on top of it in the years to come. Now, next week on my YouTube channel, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be answering a Q&A session. I've been nominated by another YouTuber to do this, so I'll be introducing that in next week's video. But I also want to take your questions as well. So I'm going to answer 5 main questions as part of this challenge, but I'd like to answer 5 more from you. So if you have any questions that you're dying to ask me, please leave them as a comment below, and I will select 5 of them to answer in next week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with someone who you think might be interested in the plastic problem at allotment sites. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I release a video every Sunday, and I will see you in the next one next week.